Hey, my Legion, how y'all doing today? Back with some more movie reviews, obscure documentary reviews, because I never knew when I first got the Roku, the Christmas present in 2014, um, from my sister. It was pretty much just watching stuff on Netflix, and I added channels eventually, and they had the stuff that was already built in there. They had like a couple of things that aren't active anymore, but I know they had Netflix and they had Amazon and stuff like that. And then it wasn't until after Dad, I mean, because the channel I usually would watch on there when I started uploading it would be like Netflix, of course. Uh, and then I added channels like Popcorn Flicks, Fright Flicks, Film Rise, and YouTube, especially YouTube. It was cool watching, especially longer videos on the big, on the big screen. Like I watched Howie Cat's Archie video, not about his cat, but the history of Archie. Well, I mean, the history of Archie the cat is fascinating too. His cat Archie, I love Archie. Yeah, I love the cartoon Archie too. I mean, the comic book. And I never knew what. And then it went to after that. I started watching Amazon. It's like, oh my god, they got a ton of stuff on here, and a really obscure stuff, especially documentaries. Like the one about the band Death, and then there was like documentaries. I mean, 'cause I thought YouTube, I mean, Netflix was like the one about the ET games being buried in the not the backyard, but the desert, and the stuff about the Iron Sheik and stuff. And Dad said, "You watch too many of these," And I thought it was, I mean, because I did watch that with Dad. I thought it was fascinating, but I didn't know that Amazon was really, really good at doing these. And I saw three more obscure ones uh, on very different subjects last night. Well, I went to bed about 6 after 6. I stayed up late like I did last night with a 6 hour live at like 6:30. And I finished watching the other one, so that's why this video review is late. I'm gonna push back my other videos too to give us at least 2 hours, so it's gonna be a long video. Well, I reviewed Welcome to Your Funeral, the story Rigor Mortis. I reviewed what the hell? I mean, I reviewed Rewind This. Now I reviewed Special Unlit. So let's talk about the Welcome to Your Funeral story, Rigor Mortis, which I was really happy to find because I found that Mentors one. I found the Mentors one Thursday night, and oh my god, there's a documentary about the Mentors. Cause I saw the GGI one, which is kind of notorious, but I never heard of the Mentors one. So I watched that. And I did a review of it, and I watched. I went through. There were some other neat ones on there, and that's why I saw "Welcome to Your Funeral" story, Whittaker Morris. I didn't know they had that there. I watched that, narrated by Phil Anselmo from Pantera. And the one thing is, I know his ex-wife. She's a friend of the channel. So one of my celebrity friends is Steph Opal. This guy eats some salad. Well, nothing wrong with that. I'm eating salad right now, Mark. And oh shit, I got thrown off. He was doing a narration, and he was talking about the DFW metal scene, which I never heard of. I mean, because I don't know what he's talking about, Dallas Fort Worth metal scene. I didn't ever really heard of that term before. I knew about what do you say New York scene, but I mean I knew about you hear about Florida, Tampa Bay area scene, and then you hear about the Bay Area scene in California. That was the one to hear, but I never heard of the one in Texas. I know Pantera's from there too. And it's weird. Phil Anselmo was narrating that, and then the time they hated Pantera because at the time, this is in the '80s. Pantera was a more like a glam rock band, not like the band you see today with in '90 with Cowboys from Hell. They kind of they kind of transformed themselves, but it used to be more like a glam rock band. And it talks about Rick and Morty. It talks about the slow rise, them from different bands, how they met in high school and stuff. and it goes up. It was really interesting. It talks about, like, I mean, it's an hour and 50 minutes. And it takes its time. It's like the kind of one you film with the guys. I just the whole thing editing. And one of the one of the members of the band directs the movie. That's probably why it took its time. And it talks about, like, they had all this their unique playing style and stuff with like one guitarist. And record companies eventually became interested, and then they got signed to Columbia, not Columbia, Capitol, and they were one of the very few metal acts that got signed to a real major label. I'm not talking about Metal Blade. I'm like talking about, like, I know Metallica was with Elektra. Uh, Megadeth was Columbia, I think, and then they were with yeah, I'm not talking about Combat or Megaforce. Those are small indies. I'm talking about that, or like Deaf American was eventually Slayer, I think. But I mean, it was interesting. It talks up to that, and I thought it would go into more detail, and then it says the end of part one to be continued. And I don't know if there's going to be a part two. Um, I thought it was fascinating. I really liked it. I mean, it could have been a little more engaging, but they took their time talking about it. But remember the band, because it seemed like they missed no details and stuff, like just about their life growing up in different bands they were in, because of different small underground bands, and how they were attracting a lot of attention from, and the people were scared of them because they had like bar fights and stuff like that. Whole bunch of really crazy stuff, and it goes up to where they got signed by Land, and then it says to be continued. I mean, not Land, God, Capitol, and they were the very first band to get. Because I used to buy Fangoria, there's a bookstore in the PX type shopping center they had at Linderhof, Germany, and I remember buying Fangoria, and I think Rigor Mortis was the very first album that was ever advertised in a Fangoria magazine. Because I mean, Fangoria talked about music somewhere. I remember they did like a little thing about the music video for Psychotherapy that the Ramones did, that was banned by MTV for gore. But I mean, most of the gore effects, the thing when the guy busted out the guy's face, that was like a dry gore effect, but it was banned on MTV. That's back when they were more said. Now they have everything on there now. Back when they used to play videos. But I ended up seeing it on Rockin' America. That was a syndicated show late night on ABC. That was when Rick Ducommun was hosting it. Well, anyway, I'm getting off track. But I give the show an 8 out of 10. When we shoot a story of Rigor Mortis, I found about Rigor Mortis through that ad in Fangoria. And then, I mean, I bought I remember buying the cassette for the first one at the one at one of the record stores in Fort Bragg. And back in the Army, you walked a lot, but you had to keep up your stuff for PT. You couldn't go out running all the time, but you could walk a lot, and that would build up. You always had to try be somewhat fit. And I remember I had a Walkman. I mean, this was back in the early days. And in Fort Bragg, this was 90 to 91. Well, I went Fort Bragg, Fort Detrick, and then back to Fort Bragg again. And walking around listening to the Rigor Mortis self-titled album. And it was horror metal. It was graphic lyrics and stuff like that. And they did like songs like Demons. Well, based off movies like, well, Welcome to Your Funeral, My Friend. That's title of a spaghetti western. That was just instrumental. But like Demons was like based on the movie. They did songs like Reanimator and Wizard of Gore based on the movies and stuff. And sometimes they have like little sound bites in there. And I remember loving the album. And then later on, I found they had see now. I mean, it goes up to where they got signed by Capitol, and I don't know what happened after that. They have to see part two. But I remember buying the other albums. They had an EP called Freaks for, I think that was on Metal Blade, and that was really good too. I liked that album a lot. And then I guess they got signed to another label, more independent. I found out through the last few months I was in the military. I was still in Fort Detrick. It was Rigor Mortis versus the World. I remember hanging out at Sergeant Scarved's place or Scott's place and listening to that album, and it was great. It was a good album. And then that's the last I really heard of Rigor Mortis until they had an album on YouTube. I was gonna do a review of it, I never did. I never got around to it, but it was an okay album. I have to listen to it again. But I mean, that was really good. That was a good show. And then next coming up is Rewind This. Yeah, I guess after there was a thing about VHS. It's about the VHS tape. I guess it was a really fascinating documentary. I finally saw called Adjust Your Tracking that John said played at the Horror Fest. I heard about it. I finally found the thing. And I love the movie. I think that might be the best out of all of them. And then there was some other ones about collecting DVDs with Phil and Saul talking about his because that was like over 2 hours. And basically, people just talking about their collection and stuff. And Rewind This is a little bit different. It kind of like goes back to it'd be a good companion piece with Adjust Your Tracking. It has interviews with like Lloyd Kaufman, Frank Henenlotter, and it talks about the evolution of VHS. It talks about Betamax also. Well, I remember Gary had a Betamax. I mean, the only few people I knew had a Betamax. Gary had one, and then he said it was great, and then he said like they stopped making the tapes because they weren't long enough. You record like an hour. You know, the tapes only played like on SP mode, which is the quickest mode, to play an hour worth of tape. Whereas the VHS would play 2 hours on VHS on SP mode. I don't know, I mean, what speeds the Betamax will record in, but I mean, the slowest would be like SLP. So if it's 1 hour, you could probably get 3 hours on there. With VHS, you could get 6 hours on there. And sometimes they had longer tapes that would play like 2 hours and 40 minutes on SP. And it talks about that. I mean, how Betamax got phased out because it just wasn't as long or as practical. And the only people, like I said, knew how had Betamax was Gary Dorr. And then when I went, I didn't see anyone talk about it. And then when I went to um, Germany, this one guy had a Betamax, and and he said don't work anymore. And then he sold me one of his VCRs. I bought one too. I bought one, and he sold me one. And that's the only place that had a thing where you could rent Betamax is at the library. And they had a whole bunch of really cool Betamax things like Dawn and Dead and stuff like that. And no one was renting them because no one had a Betamax. I mean, that's the only time I wish I had a Betamax. But then after I left Germany, there was no more Betamax. And they had at the library, like in Germany and Bremerhaven, a ton of Betamax movies. And they had like regular VHS movies. But I had VHS. And that was the last time when I left Germany in August, September, or something like that. That was the last I heard of the Betamax. Last I seen a bit, or except, well, I saw one movie when Fort Bragg. They had a place called I can't remember what it was. They had one place. They had like they were selling tapes, and they had one Betamax of Rich Hall's Vanishing America. I wanted to get it, but I didn't have a Betamax. I'm not gonna get a Betamax now. It's stupid. And then I remember like so many years later, another place was selling Rich Hall's Vanishing America, because I was a fan. That was a Showtime. I bought it on regular VHS, which was cool. So I came full circle. Well, anyways, it talks about like Betamax, and then they had Frank Henenlotter, who directed movies like Frankenhooker, Basket Case, and stuff. And he said he had a Betamax that had a top loading thing, and it had like a wire remote where you plug in a wire, and it'd be like 20 feet, and then they had the remote. And that's the very first VCR we had. We didn't have a Betamax, and it wasn't a front loader. We always had the side loader ones. We never had a top loader. And we had a wire remote. And I remember that. I mean, and that lasted until like 92, 93. That lasted a long time. We bought that in 86. Yeah, all the other VCRs we had wireless remotes, but that's the only one we had a wire remote that plugged in. And aside from that, it also talks about people's insane collections. It talks about guys. Oops. It talks about a guy going to flea market and buying all this stuff, including a VCR rewinder. I remember we bought a couple of VCR rewinders. Dad bought one. I always thought it was a waste of money, and Dad bought one. I said, well, hell, I'll buy one. Oh no, no, no! I take that back. I take that back. In Germany, I had an elaborate one that both rewound and fast forwarded. So I did have one in Germany. Yeah, I'm not in Germany in Fort Bragg. And my other friend had a rewinder too. I forgot about. Okay, we did have a rewinder. And Dad bought one. I think I bought one too. They were like $10, and they never, and they talk about that. And they talk about people who collect VHS tapes, like in some of the other ones, and they talk about Lloyd Kaufman was on there talking about VHS, the VHS revolution and stuff. And then he talked about there's somewhat of a resurgence with VHS. People want to collect the big things, but then how it's all going to streaming now. And they said like the Blu-ray thing's not gonna last that long, especially with streaming the way it is now. And people having insane collections and stuff. It's you know really a fascinating show. I really liked it. I'm trying to think if anything else was. And they talked about some shot on video movies like Sledgehammer, Be Sledgehammer, which I finally saw. I had a chance to rent it, and then that one place stopped renting tapes in Fort Bragg, but I finally saw it on on YouTube, and it was kind of boring. It would have been more than 50 cent round, but it was kind of boring. I didn't care for it. And they're talking about other ones, Sean video, like the ones like Tales from Quadrant Zone and Devil Dolls from Hell, which I reviewed as so cheesy. And they're talking about people like who would go and pay so much money for that. That's why I found out about that. I was talking with Dave Mag on Queenie Todd's live stream. He said like someone paid $600 for a copy of Tales from the Quadrant Zone, and it's not a good movie. It's really low budget, and there's scenes where you can't even understand what the guy's saying. It sounds like he's talking underwater. Oh, okay, shit. I thought the mic was back. Oh God, scared the hell out of me for a second. Um, what else was going on? Kai, I saw it. I mean, it was like a lot of. I mean, it was really cool. I liked the show. I give it a 9 out of 10. It's really worthwhile. A great companion piece to Adjust Your Tracking. I think Adjust Your Tracking was better. Next was Special and Lit, and I saw some of this last night, and I finished watching it today. That's why the video is kind of late. I have to reschedule everything. Um, yeah, Special and Lit's about pinball, and I love pinball. You don't see pinball anymore, and like a lot of people don't even know pinball existed. And talk about the history of pinball. And the weird thing is, pinball was illegal for like 30 years and stuff like that. He says a game of chance, not a game of skill. They consider it a gambling device, and some of them were actually paying out money and stuff. Cause my dad said they had one at the fire hall that paid out money. He played in the '60s a few times and won some money on it. And they got rid of it. But I mean, then when this one guy, he's in the movie. I can't remember his name. He was with the guy, and he said it's not a game of chance, it's a game of skill. And then they eventually made it legal again in like '76. I can't believe, you know. And it talks about the history of pinball. People collected. There's one guy in Pennsylvania has like has over 130, and these are expensive because they take up a lot of room. And you man, your electric bill always plugged in the bedroom and stuff. It's really cool though, but I mean, yeah, it's just so expensive. And there's one guy, they had all the collectors and stuff. And then it's really weird. It takes a turn. They talk about like this one guy with a beanie and his one friend are kind of nerdy. And I guess he sells DVDs of pinball games and stuff, or pinball play he filmed. And he was at he rented some place out, some conference room where he was doing a pitch. He said, "Yeah, I follow around with a camcorder all the time, and he's selling for $10." And like people are nodding off. I felt like they were kind of making fun of him and stuff, and his friend. And they're talking about people playing and then doing weird dance moves. Cause I mean, I move a little bit while playing pinball, but I mean, like doing lifting legs up like this. Cause I just screwed up my other knee again. Yeah, and the pain came. And I couldn't imagine doing, or people like dropping down the ground or putting their one knee to the ground, like one knee. I never did that playing. I mean, I moved somewhat. That's why when I finally saw Tilt, the Brooke Shields pinball movie, I thought maybe it was kind of silly when he showed Charles Durning doing a dance when he was playing that. That was kind of silly. But no, people actually, there's some people actually do that. I didn't know that. And it's really, but I mean, I felt like they were making fun of that one guy that was really overdoing it. And I felt like it was taking a dark side, like people like being in pain from playing pinball. Because after a while, my wrists start to hurt, like playing for an hour or so. Not at growing up, but now. And I remember round one, I played pinball for a while. It's cool they had like 5 or 6 pinball machines in the back. But with the way things are now, I don't know if that's ever gonna. I'm sure it's reopening again, but I don't know what their precautions are taking or something like that. It's a lot different than what things used to be. Especially with the 3D thing where they have the glass, you put the glass on now. I don't know if they have if they someone's there or I don't know what's going to go on with that. It's a shame. Uh, and it talks about that, and then talks about like ends up kind of on a sad note. What a lot of kids there's videotapes of kids playing pinball, new kids playing pinball. And he filmed stuff on the Pinball Hall of Fame. I know my friend Steph, who moved to Arizona, I believe it was Arizona. She said that they had a field trip to the Pinball Hall of Fame. I was like, boy, I wish we had cool field trips like that. You know, um, and it's an interesting movie. Um, I was fascinated by it, and it ends kind of sad, saying like, how video games took over and people forgot about pinball, and then like the pinball game imploded, and then pinball became fashionable again in the early '90s, and then and after '94, it kind of like went downhill. And the only place making them now is Stern. And this was filmed up about 10 years ago or something like that. And I couldn't imagine making those. And then, I mean, they're super heavy. They did a giant boxes and stuff. That'd kill my back after a while. But it's a fascinating movie. I mean, it ends up on, that, and it was really cool seeing people like, I have to laugh talking about ball control. I kind of laugh at that. But I mean, I remember being able to stop playing it and having it up would stop one ball in the thing and then going and then flipping it up or something. But these are like people that have like two, 3 balls on the one flipper like that, and then they let it down a little bit and they flip it up and then flip one ball and hit with the other flipper. I thought that was cool. I never seen it like that. My ball control's not that good. Nut control, ball control. Ball control. We need ball control. That's the gun control song from DR. That's so silly. But I really like the movie. It's a lot of fun. And a little sad seeing like pinball going away the way it's because most people don't even know about pinball or kids never played it. I mean, growing up as a kid, yeah, well, that's the only way you can grow up as a kid. I remember Dad bought me this little pinball machine that had like a front um, thing right here. And playing, I love the game, and then somehow the wires or something like that was always breaking and wasn't made that well. But it was a fun game while it lasted. I remember at real little Happy Day they had a Fonzie pinball machine, and it was a stand-up one. Because the ones I have, just little ones you on the floor, you just play like that. And Dad wouldn't buy it because he said it was like $100 or something like that. He said it's too much money. Or I can't remember how much it was. So I wanted that back second, third grade. And then he bought me another one that lasts forever, and it wasn't much fun. But I did play it and have flipper. It had like little thing to do, bing, 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 bing. One is funny, the other is a little one, but it was cool. Uh, and then I played video pinball before. That's sacrilegious, but I mean, you can't really play pinball unless you have the game there. I mean, video pinball is about as good as you can get, but it's not the same though. They do try. Uh, But I mean, I'm glad I have the pinball machine footage. I haven't played pinball that much because I mean, you don't see it anymore. Some bars, you might see one or two, but I mean, you don't still see it like you used to. Um, I like that. I wish they would have shown some more stuff from Bride of Pinbot and Pinbot because those are the two video game pinball machines I found out about. And then there was one. There was an embarrassing game, a space game. We have to shoot up the space station. If it doesn't make it here, abort, abort, abort. And that's always embarrassing because the people around you know you screwed up because it's loud too. And then you hear people go abort, 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 making fun. Yeah, like oh well. And I remember in Uncle Charlie's had. I mean, hopefully, and not Uncle Charlie's. John Wildwood's always had a pinball machine. And hopefully they'll open up sometime soon. But I haven't been. I haven't been to Edinburgh since the last time I hung out with. Well, no, I went Saturday with my sister about a month and a half ago. It's been a long time. Yeah, since I rock and rolled. See, I hang out with John so much. Oh my God, 25-minute review. That I'm definitely going past. Oh my God. Well, anyways, I remember playing the Funhouse game with that mannequin Slappy or something like that. Not Slappy, that's Goosebumps, but that was a cool game too. I liked the game. I give Special Lit a 10 out of 10. So I hope you like this very long video of me talking about the band Rigor Mortis, which I love the band, the great band, horror gore band, metal band. Um, and it's just funny because I used to hate the guys from Pantera because they were glam metal before they changed the Cowboys from Hell. Phil Anselmo was uh, doing the narrating the documentary, which took its time, which is fine. And then to talk about VHS and VHS collectors, that's another one I saw. And then about pinball. So I hope you like this video. Till next time, please take care, my legion.